My name is Bobby Carnegie. I'm the Queensland Branch Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia. Today we are talking to unemployed Australian seafarers. These are men and women who have not been out of work for 1 month or 2 months or even 3, but they are long-term unemployed seafarers thrust into the abyss of human despair by unscrupulous employers, unscrupulous ship owners, governments who have not cared about whether Australia has a merchant fleet, and thrust into the battle of deep despair because of an uncaring society that doesn't know anything about what it's like to be a merchant seafarer. These men and these women work on the world's oceans. They carry our cargoes in and out of ports. They do that with a minimum of fuss. They do that at only fair rates of union pay so that we can have a society that actually functions. Over the last decade, Australia's merchant fleet has been decimated by an unprincipled attack by corporate Australia and international capital to destroy the industry that was once a vibrant one called the Australian merchant fleet. The cost of this destruction of an industry is much more deeper than dollars and cents. It's a cost that can only be judged in human lives. Sadly, I've been to funerals of my members who have taken their own lives because they felt that there was no longer any hope. Sadly, I've had to hold hands with my members when they've gone through the horrors of an economic loss of losing their homes because there hasn't been any work. In the following sets of interviews, all true, all heartfelt, no prompting, just from the heart, you'll hear the stories of what this long, agonising period of unemployment has done to some of the finest and most skilled groups of Australian workers, whose only crime and whose only wrongdoing is that they believe that their jobs should not be replaced, as they have been, by exploited foreign labour being paid on average around about $3 a day, $3 an hour for their work. We cannot compete with that, but we believe we shouldn't have to compete with that. That corporate Australia and Australian governments must come together and say that Australian seafarers have a right to work in their own country. We would not accept it in any other industry. We would not accept it for nurses to be paid $3 an hour. We would not accept it if it was a bus driver. We would not accept it if it was a doctor. We would not accept it if it was the people who are working on the fixing up our roads or construction workers. But for some reason, because merchant seafarers are away on the world's oceans, away in our coastal shipping routes, is that we forget about them. But they're Australian as Henry Lawson. They're as Australian as a kangaroo and an emu on our coat as arms. And so we shouldn't forget them. Please listen to their stories. Please support us in our battle to see a better Australia. And please support us in our desperate fight to make sure that unemployed Australian seafarers can once again walk up gangways on Australian ships carrying Australian cargoes that should be sailed by Australian seafarers. Their stories follow, and we thank you for your time.
Good day, folks. My name's Golic. I'm a 4th generation merchant seaman. I've been at sea for 43 years, 37 of which have been on merchant vessels. I've enjoyed my life. It's been a family tradition, and this last 18 months has been devastating. I've gone through the depths of depression, unable to find a job. I'm 60 years of age. I'm still fit enough to work and I enjoy the life at sea. I do not want to do anything else. But for the sake of profit, we have been replaced by exploited foreign seafarers who are not getting paid a decent wage, whose employers pay no tax in this country, and these ships that are traversing our coastline with less than well paid, less than well trained crews are putting the entire island nation at risk. So I'd like to say to governments, it's time to re-evaluate your position of economic rationalism and profit for the sake of profit. It's time to start thinking about the people of the nation, the people of the world, and pay decent wages for cargoes carried in properly manned, properly maintained Australian vessels on the Australian coast. And for that matter, on the international runs, at one stage Australia had over 150 ships on what was called the Commonwealth line, and then that was sold by a Liberal government to a lord in Great Britain. And then we had the Australian National Line, again sold out from under us by another successive government. At this stage we have about 11 ships and we have 900 people unemployed on our database. I'm an able-bodied integrated rating bosun and all of this will get me nothing ashore. I've been at sea my entire life. I have been depressed, but I fought my way out of that through physical exercise and meditation. But I drove around for many months with a 18-foot length of 2-inch hose in the back of my car. And sadly, we're an organisation of about 15,000 people and upwards of 8 people took their own life in a 12-month period, some 12, 18 months ago. So it's devastating for families, communities. My 17-year-old son, I don't know how I'm going to put him in university. He's in the highest class in school, the academic excellence, and what am I going to do? I've had to take my superannuation and I'm living on what I should retire on. I have nothing for retirement any longer. I'm going to get to a stage where I'll be homeless with no income, no possibility of employment if this is not turned around. So government, put aside your economic rationalism, your profit for profit's sake, your world trade agreements, your free trade agreements, and look at your policies, what they're doing to your people. It's sad, but I will survive this, but I don't know how I'll survive retirement. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name's Kevin Thomas. I'm a 49-year-old unemployed Australian seafarer and a proud member of the MUA Australia and the Queensland branch. My first ship was the River Emily in 1985. I was 18 years old. That was on the Gladstone to Weipa run. I was primarily on that run for quite a few years on all 4 ships as trainee, as AB, through the transition to IR and GFIR, until I had kidney failure and a transplant in 2002. I worked extremely hard to regain my health and fitness in order to return to my chosen profession, which I did in 2003, back to the Gladstone to Weipa run. I then spent 10 years in the oil and gas industry, only to be replaced in the recent years by overseas seafarers who were paid a mere pittance. It has been over 2 years since my last ship, and being 49 with credentials only pertaining to the seafaring industry, but nothing that is relevant to shore-based industries, I've found it nigh impossible to find work and bring money into my household, and I'm getting very close to losing everything that I've worked for since I was 18. This has led to bouts of depression and 2 stints in a mental health ward, and almost the breakup of my 24-year marriage. I squarely lay the blame on the lack of work for Australian seafarers on the government, who are allowing overseas seafarers to work on our coast for, as I said before, a mere pittance and in appalling conditions, which I have seen firsthand as I have been involved in ship inspections for the ITF. All I'm asking for is a fair go, like all Australians want and expect. I support Aussie farmers, Aussie products and Aussie workers, and what really upsets me is the lack of support for Aussie seafarers, who are just like any other Aussie workers, just like you. I don't want welfare, I want work so I can pay my taxes and be a productive member of society, just like every other Aussie worker wants. We're an island nation who deserve to have our own ships manned by our own people.
Well, my name is Ainon Thomas, and some people know me by Chili. And I'm a wife of Seafarers, Kevin Thomas, and some people know him by Rainbow. I've been to this country for last 30 years, and since last 30 years, I've always been working, and I'm not the bludger. And I also pay the tax that everyone else in Australia. And since I'm married to my husband, I've involved with the strong union in Australia, the MUA. And my family is already back home from Singapore, is also the strong union. But I even become more stronger once I know my husband and the rest of the union members. I'm always a strong person, and I'm always very independent. And I always don't scared at all with anything else in life what I have to go through. But lately what happened to my husband, lost the job after 30 over years at sea and not working for last more than 2 years. I become a person who's always scared. Every day I get up, I always scared. Scared what's going to happen the next day, because I never know. Because of this, all what happened to the loss that lost my husband's job and my job, and I become one of the victim for antidepressant for last couple of years. And lately, the doctor just giving me even higher dose for my antidepressant, because I always keep saying to people, life is not worth living anymore, because it's nothing that day that you're looking for. It's worse not only because I have to look after myself, to look for the future, it's going to get better the next day. I also have to look after my husband, that what he go through. And because we both have antidepressant badly, my husband end up in a mental health for a while, and now he's still trying to be recovered for that. And not to having a job is the bigger thing that's not help for every Australian and also all the seamen. I fight for all Australian workers and also fight for all the union for last more than 20 over years. I'm very proud what they've done and what they do to get all this job back. But when? And I hate to hear the government say that we will look after Australian. Why only the word without the action? Why don't you give a job to Australian before you give a job to overseas? And do the right thing by Australian, because we pay tax and we've been proud to be the Australian. Instead you to look after overseas people and make look good yourself all along the every world that you're going to visit, and make yourself look so good and what you say. Shame on you, government, that you can't ever look after your own people in your own country, And the people start to kill themselves because of this, and married, divorced because of this, and the father lost the children because of this, and a lot of the things. Before you even say to people overseas how good you are and what you can do, why don't you start to open your eyes and say that I can look after Australian first? Because we are Australian. You have to look after us first before you're thinking about look after everyone else. Because you treat us at the moment like we worse than the criminal. You treat us like we are nobody, like we are second citizen. You treat us worse than a bloody dog. Even dog can look after better. The owner look after the dog better than the government look after us. We are supposed to be very proud to call ourselves, this is our land, this is our country. But to saying that, the government, can you please look after us before more people die because of you, but because of what you've done to us? I want everybody to know around the world, Australian is not as great as what you think. When the Australian government cannot look after their own Australian, what chance that you have? Unless you want to work here with $3 per hour or less, and they treat you like a dog. I understand that everybody want to survive and look after the family, and it's not their fault, but the government let that happen, and that shouldn't be happening. Don't you feel ashamed that 60 years old who still want to work and still want to pay tax and doesn't want to go to Centerland? Don't you feel proud to have Australians like that live in your own country instead you to pay someone who doesn't want to work and be in the bludger? And when I go to Centerland, they treat us like a criminal. I'd rather work and say, this is my pay, this is my pay slip, this is what I hard earned living. Because of I can't get any job anymore, I have to work as a strawberry farm. I'm 56 years old this year, and I have to work even harder. It's not an easy job. I work in this country, many jobs that I ever done. I work in a hospital. It's a hard work, but this is worse. And I don't know how long more that I can do it this. Like I say, every day I'm thinking that life is not worth living. But when I kill myself, who's going to look after my husband? No one. Nobody. Because of this, our marriage nearly gone a while ago, but we still here, stand strong. In 5 months' time, when my husband don't have a job, from today onward, we're going to lose everything that we earn. And we're going to have nothing. And I cannot allow that to happen because I work so hard. And my husband works so hard for that. And I cannot be homeless. Thank you very much, guys. I hope somebody listen to all of what all these seafarers saying about all their story. Don't just listen. Do something about it, government, before you kill your own people even more. Don't just listen. Do something about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Barbour. I'm a proud member of the Maritime Union of Australia here in Queensland at the Queensland branch in Brisbane. I'm here today to talk about the devastation I've felt being unemployed for the last 4 years. I'm a mature seafarer, and this is all I've ever done and all I've ever known. And it's a job you sometimes take for granted in the length of time and you expect to be in the role. I started off in the galley as a galley boy at 16 and worked my way up to chief cook and then chief steward in both English ships, New Zealand ships, and here in Australia. I was looking forward to retiring at some age, and then all of a sudden the devastation of the loss of ships, seeing them getting run off the coast by corporate need and corporate desire, And amongst all that, seeing seafarers dragged out of their bunks and dismissed summarily by thugs and police and security personnel just compounded the feeling I was feeling. I was devastated after finding myself unemployable. Not because I'm not capable of work, I am. Not because I'm unfit, I am. But because corporate need and greed decided that there was no room for me for standing up for union principles, on fairness, on safety, on the things we fight for every day of the week. To have some dignity as human beings, dignity in our jobs, and to be proud of who we are and proud of this organisation and what it represents for working people and the working class. This is a battle that's been going on for a long time. This isn't just a war on workers. This is a war and struggle in the class sense. This is a class struggle, and we're well aware of that. But we're prepared to fight that battle. For myself, coming up to Brisbane on a regular basis, listening to the meetings, hoping, sometimes despairing, that there is no work around the corner. But hopefully, with some significance and some input from our Right to Work in Our Own Country campaigns, from recent legislation that's been enacted in the High Court to support our right to work in our own country, despite the attacks from this particular government, that they don't care about us. Well, we care. We believe it's our right to work in our own country. That's what we're fighting for. That's what we're struggling for. And it's happening all over the world. But I've known some friends of mine who've gone through divorces, suicidal attempts, some successful, unfortunately, too many funerals instead of too many weddings, all because we're waiting for the light on the horizon that says this industry's picking itself back up. We've held these people to account, both governments, corporations, and those who make decisions that affect us all. Again, as I say, 4 years, I'm still waiting for work. I'm struggling to get by. I've got to decide, like many pensioners, whether I put money on for food, or whether I put it in the car to get up and see our meetings and our discussions and our decisions and what progress our organisation is making against the fucking greed of these corporate bastards. That's what I'm worried about, that we won't break through while we've got this particular government in power. We're struggling on all fronts: personal, financial, emotional, ideologically. We hope that the next government in this country is a Labour government. We're pushing very hard for that. And we have some assurances from them that there will be some hope for us if they're elected. This is a monumental struggle. This is one of those pivotal epochs where if we don't fight and fight as hard as we're doing now, we will have nothing, not only for ourselves, but the next generation. And that's what we pride ourselves in, that whatever we do in our working lives, despite its impact upon us, and particularly when you're unemployed and you're struggling to find a way to pay for things, that there will be some future, not just for us, but for our children and their children's children. And that's what this struggle is about. It's about dignity. It's about strength. It's about regaining and getting our work back in this country. We have a right to work in our own country, and comrades, I hope that's what everybody who sees this video will support, and support us in our just cause. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ben Menny. I'm a member of the Maritime Union of Australia. I'm a young seafarer. I've only recently just completed my TIR time, some 6 months ago. And in that 6 months, I haven't been able to find any work whatsoever. I've got all the qualifications, all the certificates, but it just doesn't seem to matter. For me, it all kind of starts, I'll start at the beginning really. My dad has gone away to sea most of his life. I remember as a young kid he would come home and I'd be so happy to see him. One time he brought me back this ship, a little toy ship. I used to play with it all the time. And I lost that ship. And so just like we're losing real ships, real jobs for Aussie seafarers. And it makes me angry. I get angry, very angry, because what future do we have? My old boy doesn't have a job anymore. I can't find a job. One day I would have liked my kids to have a job, and we just don't have it. All these we've got foreign labour, $2 an hour they're paying them, less even. They don't have the right qualifications, they don't get security checks, they don't have medicals, they don't have to worry about any of that. In 3 months I have an AMSA medical that I have to pay for without a job. That's $500 I've got to fork out. You tell me how I pay for that. No job, what am I meant to do? So it's just wrong. I just want to say I'm so proud of the union that I'm part of. I've only been part of it for a very short time, but the people I've met just already, it's been been so great for my life. The job itself is amazing. I love working at sea. I just want to thank everyone, really. And I really hope I get to sail with all you guys in the near future. I hope we get our jobs, and I really just hope that Australian jobs and it all works out for us. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.